I want to ask, and this is a loaded question and a leading one, so I'll admit that at first, but why does proportionality only seem to apply to Israel? And I don't want to go back to World War II for examples or anything like that, but like, I've never heard, I don't even think I'd heard the word proportionality until this conflict. No one seems to really worry about it.
Oh, no, it's been an obsessive term used in every conflict involving Israel for at least this century. Every Gaza conflagration before this last 2 years, the 2006 Lebanon war, it's always been proportionality. First of all, I mean, it's in some ways it's understandable. In one way, it's understandable. A lot of people who don't know anything about the conflict or about the region, or indeed about warfare in general, may have the presumption that your side have 1,200 people killed. You're allowed to retaliate up to the level of the same number on the other side. And if you go beyond that, it's disproportionate. Now, this is, to say this is elementary as a bit of ethical or moral or strategic understanding is to vastly understate the matter. But there are some people who do see it like that, or let's go further along it, who think, although they might not be able to say exactly where the level is, they think they would know what a disproportionate response looked like if they saw it. There is a particular obsession about it whenever it involves Israel. And the most obvious example I would give is when ISIS in the 2010s were rampaging across Iraq and Syria and successfully carrying out mass casualty terror attacks in Europe, particularly most notably in France in 2015. The French government, the British government, the American government, others decided to go in and destroy ISIS. We were very reluctant in all of our countries to put boots on the ground. That was the great thing everyone was always discussing. Are we going to put boots on the ground? And there was a recognition among all these countries that they didn't want to get dragged into that. So all of our countries did considerable aerial campaigns, bombing places like Mosul, where ISIS were governing. And they also we also used our Kurdish allies, Peshmerga and others, to be the front phalanx of the ground campaign. There was some special forces assistance, but it was mainly the fighting was done by the Kurds. We just don't know how many civilians were killed. We just don't know. Tens of thousands for sure.
We don't know because we decided not to count? Is that kind of why?
Nobody counted because nobody frankly cared. They wanted to stop people going into music concerts in Paris and slaughtering people by the hundreds. So, and ISIS were Hamas-like, very similar Islamist ideology and theology. And we decided that the priority was destroying ISIS. There are some people who have a problem with that, but I don't think very many people do. Although the so-called anti-war movements in the West that tend to be pro-war but pro the other side winning as long as it's not us or our allies, occasionally will talk about that. But that issue did not close down major cities in the US or shut down capital cities in Europe week after week. So my question always on that is just so why is it that the case with Israel? And I think there are very deep reasons. In fact, you saw them by the 8th of October when the massacre was still going on in the south of Israel, when Hamas was still, and other terrorists were all still rampaging through the country. The world's media turned on the 8th of October onto how is Israel going to take revenge? I think that's a very deep substrate in our societies, which is the idea of the vengeful Jews, the vengeful Jewish state, an eye for an eye, all that sort of thing. It's very, you see it even in reputable media like Private Eye, the satirical magazine in the UK. They all fall into that. The BBC, all these media of different sides fall into that trope. And by the way, of course, there is there's an added oddity to that, which is not just as I've seen with my own eyes, the considerable efforts that the Israelis go to stop excessive civilian casualties. And I mean, there are people who've done the studies on this, and I find it persuasive that yes, the Israelis have been as targeted as they can be in an extremely difficult battle situation. But I have noticed the number of people who seem not to realize, among other things, that because Israel is so small and its landmass so small and its population so small compared to basically any of its neighbors, it would be understandable if they acted disproportionately, although they don't in civilian numbers terms. But it would be understandable if they couldn't take the 1-to-1 ratio of you kill one of ours, we kill one of yours, because very swiftly its neighbors would work out that you can destroy Israel very easily in that case.
Right.
Very easily.
9 million? Well, we're willing to sacrifice 9 million. I don't know. And
it's not like this hasn't happened repeatedly. You know, I mean, some people listening may know this, others may not. But I mean, what is the first thing that happens after the State of Israel is declared in 1948? All its neighbors invade and try to strangle it at birth. When the population of Israel is about 800,000 people, many of whom had just survived World War II. So, and of course, there were more attempts in the next decades, 67, 73, the Intifadas, and then October the 7th. It's not like there can be much trust from the Israeli side that people in the region do not want to annihilate and strangle and destroy the country wholesale. And again, it's what I describe as the unbelievable presumptuousness of people who've been born in societies like the one we're sitting in and born in peace into a society which, for all the problems we have, we live in peace. There's such presumptuousness of people who think they know what they would do in a state of war. They don't. They have no damn idea.
Yeah, that's a common argument that I see from people is, I would do this and this and this. Dude, you live in Ohio. You are in no Michigan is not going to invade anytime soon.
But this has been a perennial for a long time. You mentioned 9/11 earlier. I remember when Osama bin Laden was finally killed in Abbottabad in Pakistan. There was such outrage in the non-American Western media that the Navy SEALs had killed bin Laden and that they had failed to catch him alive, and then, having failed to catch him alive and killing him, had buried him at sea with the risk that he had not been given a full and proper and decent Islamic burial. Okay, now that is wild. And I remember being on the main BBC discussion show when just after that happened, and sure enough, everyone else on the show was talking about their concern about the operation, the malevolence or otherwise of the Navy SEALs for killing bin Laden, and then the appalling ignorance and lack of suitable cultural understanding that might have been demonstrated by this country in potentially not having given the murderer of 3,000 Americans appropriate burial rites. And I was like, have you all lost sight of the plot?
Yeah,
but it's beyond that. It's again, I mean, it's this presumption that so many people have, this presumptuousness, that they would know how to go into Abbottabad in the middle of the night, land the helicopter, enter the bin Laden family compound, ask them all to kindly step this way, not lose your own life, not lose your comrades, and make sure that, I mean, it's just a tiny soupçon. It's a tiny example of something which, when it's applied to Israel, is applied in spades, which is just this endless, like you know, I've had a challenge out since the start of this conflict when I've said to people who think that they understand the conflict, think that they, you know, by being, you know, let's just say fanatically anti-Israel, that they are at the heart of this and understand it. I say the same thing. Okay, going back to where we started, 10,000 Americans are stolen today from Manhattan, and they're taken into neighboring New Jersey, and they're dispersed across the territory. And the territory has been built up for 18 years to have an unbelievably complex and intricate and well-dug set of tunnels underneath New Jersey. And all of the hospitals are used as sites for storing weapons. And all of the mosques and all of the schools and all of the UN sites that are there all have tunnel entrances in them and caches of arms and much more. How do you get your 10,000 American hostages out from New Jersey with minimal civilian harm to any innocent civilian in New Jersey? Tell me your plan, or for that for that matter, show me your battle plan for how you would have done Gaza after the 7th. How would you have got the 250 hostages back home, and how would you have killed or captured all the leadership of Hamas who are responsible for this, and make sure Hamas could not run the Gaza again? And I have yet to hear a plan. I hear people saying, so just finally, I hear people saying things like, well, if you notice the hostage negotiations, the hostage releases have come as a result of negotiation, is something I hear from some people. And I say, you've no idea. It does not come because Hamas wakes up one morning, or the leadership wakes up and decides they'd like to hand back some Israelis today. It happens because of intense military pressure on them, their group, their leadership, and then to buy some time, they occasionally release some emaciated Israelis. And so again, what's anyone else's plan for it? And I don't hear any. I don't actually have many people, I think, who've taken me up on that seriously. And I think it's because they're not serious. They're not actually serious about it.